Hello and welcome to my review of the brand new Chaos Space Marines Master of Executions. This model will set you back £15 and it's the same price as kind of all of those other individual characters or HQs or elite choices that you'll find in, say, the Death Guard army, such as like the Biologist Putrefier and the Plague Surgeon and so on. He is a Chaos Lord in a way. He's the same power points cost as, the aforementioned elite choices in the Death Guard army. He's quite cheap too. You know, he's 70 points as opposed to the 74. Before I go on the rules and things, let me just look at the model himself. Now, I really liked the look of this model, except for a couple of features. I really like the big axe, this silly, huge axe, like this Executioner's axe. I like the armour, except for the bones on the shoulder pauldron. I like the heads, and I like the power plant with this kind of trophy rack. 5 spikes there, and a head. I think that's a Primaris. Please stop me if I'm wrong. I'm sure that's Primaris, right? And I didn't like the head that it came with. Speaking of heads, here they are. Here are the 2 heads. You get this guy with the like classic kind of Executioner's cowl or hood, and you get this one, which is, he's got an eyeball missing, and his gums are showing. Both of them aren't very good, in my opinion. I mean, they might suit your army and your force, fair enough, but I think there are a couple of reasons why they don't work. One is this cowl has kind of stitching on it, and the second reason is because he's got this big pipe thing, tube going through the side of his face. That doesn't work. If he didn't have that pipe tube thing, it would sort of work and get rid of the stitches, and this guy's same. The tubing is actually in a worse place. It's to the side but coming up from below, and the eyeball missing and the receding gums. I just don't think either of the heads, well, I say suit the model, they just don't, in my opinion. I'd much rather have had some kind of spiky horned Chaos Space Marine helmeted version of this champion. What I've done instead is I've gone for one of the spare heads in the Havoc box set. Yes, he's got the top knot, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it was either choose this head or choose, I think I've got a couple of helmeted ones which are quite muted. At least with this one, he's got the top knot, and he's got a bit of flair, a bit of sass, and he's a bit more recognisable. And seeing as he's holding heads with a load of hair on, I thought it would be quite a nice matchup appropriate. I think it kind of suits it well, suits the model well. What you'll have to do is, if you want to choose a different head, you're going to have to chop off the bottom part of the neck really, and give him kind of no neck for him to fit on there. Because they've cleverly, very cleverly, done that to these, where look, they've got no necks, they're just flat on the bottom. So if you want to use a different head like I have, remember to chop down as much as you can from it. Lots of detail going on to this model. You've got the bones on the armour, you've got bones dangling from the chest plate, you've got these stitches here running down this kind of cloak tunic thing. He's got the bolt pistol with a nice custom made wooden grip, and then the axe itself. I like the chips in the axe, where clearly he's been chopping lots of things on different surfaces, and it's a huge axe called the Axe of Dismemberment. We're going to go through the rules in a moment, but first of all, let's have a look at some size comparisons. First of all, with a Chaos Space Marine in the new Chaos Space Marine range, let's just have a look there. He is a tiny bit taller, I want to say. The power plant is definitely taller. Obviously the base is, his knee is a little bit taller, and this part of his chest and torso is too. Definitely the shoulder pauldrons are. So as kind of a Chaos Lord, he does stand up quite well compared to your standard troops. Comparing him to the Dark Apostle, which will be the review on Wednesday. I'm really looking forward to watching this review. Compared to him, he works very well too, as like a supporting character, or vice versa. height wise, he's definitely more imposing, and this kind of master, this champion master accompanying him, compared to say one of the champions. He's certainly bigger, more imposing than one of the champions. Look, this guy's got the plasma pistol and chain axe. He's taller than one of those. Next to a greater possessed, even. He's only a little bit smaller than one of the greater possessed. So there you go. One final size comparison to the Chaos models will be that of Abaddon, which is right here. As you can see, you know, he suits the aesthetic quite well, especially with that top knot. And he's going to be stomping around near Abaddon, you know, taking out any sort of characters, or trying to first. But yeah, that's the size comparison next to Abaddon. Abaddon's pretty big in that Terminator armour. But I thought all those size comparisons with the Chaos models will help. I'll just show you a couple of size comparisons with some Imperial models. So the Intercessor Space Marine is there, and then we've got a standard Space Marine there. Let's just see, he is, I want to say, it's hard to say, but he's a little bit taller, like a smidgen taller than a Primaris, which is pretty awesome when you think about it. Compared to a normal Space Marine, yeah, normal Space Marine barely comes up to his shoulders, pauldrons. So he's quite a big character, bigger than I thought he'd be. I just so happen to have a Foul Blight spawn on my person. No, and this guy is the same price if you were to get him separately. I got this one in the Conquest magazine, but he's a little bit taller than than the Blight spawn, but that it's on the same base. The Blight spawn has a bit more bulk to him. It's got that little nurgling as well. But this is kind of like quite standard in terms of sizes for these kind of character models, these one-off models. So I hope all those size comparisons help. I like to pride myself in giving you as many as I can in the review. So this is one of my favourite parts of the review, where I go through all of the rules for the model. Now you'll find them in both your brand new Chaos Space Marine Codex and also your Imperium Nihilus Vigilus Ablaze book. They've got him as a separate unit entry in there with pictures of him, well, with pictures of all the new models really. He's got a bit of a showcase. I don't know whether he's been about before in other Chaos Space Marine Codexes. But anyway, let's go through the rules. So he is an HQ choice, so he can be bombing around with the Dark Apostle or a Warp Smith or Sorcerer, Exalted Champion, Master of Possession, a Sorcerer, a Chaos Lord, even the Chaos Lord from the Blackstone Fortress set, which is right here actually. Pretty powerful looking characters in their own right. I will go through the rules in a moment, but if you wanted to see them both together, that's what they look like. I'd probably say they're evenly matched. I don't know which has more of a presence. Maybe the Master of Executions actually. His head is bigger. Anyway, he's got that whopping great big axe. Anyway, I thought that would be a final good size comparison. Okay, let's get back onto the rules. So, in your brand new Codex or Vigilus Ablaze, he will cost you, he's an HQ choice and he will cost you a power points cost of a 4. And also, he is a points cost of 70. That Axe of Dismemberment, it's free. It comes with him. So already that's 4 points cheaper than a normal Chaos Lord, of which you'd have to buy the Thunder Hammer, for instance, which is another 21 points. So you're pushing out 95 points, an extra 25 points more for that Chaos Lord that I've just shown you. His movement speed is 6 inches, weapon skill 2+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 4, toughness 4, 4 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 9, and a save of 3+. So the things that pop out to me there is a good movement speed, very good weapon skill, which is what you want. He's got the 4 wounds, which unfortunately is 1 less than a Lord, but he does get 1 more attack. He does get 5 attacks, and his leadership and save is the same. He's A Master of Executions is a single model armed with an axe of dismemberment, bolt pistol, frag grenades and crack grenades. So the bolt pistol, same as always, it's a range 12-inch pistol 1 weapon, strength 4, AP 0 and a damage of 1. Frag grenades and crack grenades, same as before again. Frag grenades are 6-inch, grenade D6, strength 3, AP 0 and damage 1. And crack grenades are range 6-inch, grenade 1, strength 6, AP -1 and damage of D3. Now this axe of dismemberment then, it's a melee weapon, its strength is ×2, so that'd be strength 8, AP -3 and a damage of D3. On top of that, each time you make a wound roll of 6+ for this weapon, the target unit suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to any other damage. That's brilliant. So when you're wounding with those 5 attacks, 5 remember, you get 6s, you're going to get mortal wounds on top of the normal damage. That's horrific. Abilities: Death to the False Emperor, Trophy Taker. Once per fight phase, you can reroll 1 hit roll, wound roll, or damage roll for an attack made by this model that targets a character. That's brilliant. So you can either, if they all wound, you can either reroll a wound roll to try and get that 6, or if you miss your hits for some reason, even though it's got 2+ weapon skill, you can reroll one of those. You can also reroll that very important damage. So say you get, you know, a 2 on the dice, you want to be rerolling that so you can get possible 2 or 3 damage. And that's once per fight phase. So every fight phase you can do that. Warp-sighted Butcher. After the enemy has completed all of their charge moves, this model can perform a heroic intervention if it is within 3 inches of any enemy models or 6 inches of any enemy characters. If this model is within 6 inches of any enemy characters, it can move up to 6 inches when performing a heroic intervention instead of 3 inches, as long as it finishes this move within 1 inch of the nearest enemy character. That is brilliant. So after the charge moves, he can just pop in with the 6 inches with that heroic intervention. Keywords: Chaos, Mark of Chaos, Heretic Astartes Legion, Character, Infantry, Master of Executions. He's a fantastic looking model, except for maybe the heads, and he's a brilliant unit, very solid Chaos Lord. Yes, he's missing like a plasma pistol, and you might want to take the Chaos Lord over him because the Chaos Lord has 1 extra wound and the 4+ invulnerable save, but you're paying more for that. You know, this is a cheap character killing unit that has a very high strength and a mortal wound that can reroll some of his hits, wounds or damages. He's got a very decent number of attacks. The only thing he's lacking is sort of ranged weaponry and invulnerable saves, but it's a very cheap but strong choice for your Chaos Space Marine army, and I really think he fits the aesthetic with all of the new models. So pleased that I've been able to get him to add to the force. What do you guys think? Please do put it in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. Death to the False Emperor.